Good afternoon. Welcome back to our latest session of the show. It's our 8th session out of 10, so we're coming into the home stretch, and we're happy to see so many friendly faces here. I know as we get closer to the end of the show, it can get a little touch and go. So we appreciate all of you making it out this afternoon. I'm Thomas Hare. I'm the Chief Content Officer of the PDMI, and we thank you for being here for the show. We thank you for your support. Our sponsors, all of our team have just put a lot into this, and we're happy that it seems to have come off well for most of us. So our education sponsor, in particular, we're very thankful for, and that is Pacific Media Technologies. They have a brief message to share.
Our team is bar none. I mean, together as a family, pretty much, family niche.
You've got people that are easy to talk to. They don't mind if you come to them with problems. They're easy to work with.
I'm happy working with my coworkers, and I can't wait to get here.
They deliver work that they're proud of, and it shows.
Pacific Media Technologies. Technology-driven, quality guaranteed.
So thank you again, PMT. We appreciate the support. Our Media Outlet Roundtable. We have a great group. I'm going to discuss. There's a lot to discuss when it comes to media, from linear to OTT to CTV and everything else in between. Matt Cote from Eicoff is here to take you through it, and I guess we'll let them introduce themselves. So.
Excellent. Yes, we'll be going around and introduce ourselves. So thank you all for being here. I know a lot of you probably had to cut lunch short. Great to see so many familiar faces in person. It's also great to get together, at least in my opinion, to talk about anything that has to do with video and anything that has to do with performance. It's kind of in most of our blood. I know everyone up on the panel's blood, so we love to talk about it. My name is Matt Cote. I've been at Eicoff for 26 years. Eicoff is a performance-driven agency who has their roots in direct response television. I started the video innovation department 10, 11 years ago to basically look at everything that is video, but not linear TV. And so streaming, social video, addressable TV, anything that's not traditional linear TV is kind of what my team runs. Today we do have a pretty broad subject matter that what was kind of given to us was just to talk about the media landscape. And I don't know about you guys, but even pre-COVID, but with COVID and into now, I'd say it's been the most exciting and the most kind of tumultuous time in the industry that I've been a part in. And so I think we're here today. We've got a great panel of people that come from it from slightly different perspectives. So I think we're gonna have a great discussion about all things video and performance. And I'm gonna let them introduce themselves and tell them a little bit about themselves, their company, and then their favorite TV show that they're watching these days. So Christine?
Thank you, thanks Matt. And it's great to see all of you. It's great to be a part of this wonderful panel here of experts. My name is Christine Georgakakis. I'm the head of sales for Reelz. Prior to that, I've always been on the sales side. Prior to that, I worked for TV God, which is now Pop, and prior to that, I worked for Lifetime Television. So always on the sales side, very linear driven still till today. And my favorite show is On Patrol Live, which is currently airing on Reelz. Self-promoting myself, yes. But watch it. I recommend it. It's wonderful live every week, Friday and Saturday nights. So that's it. That's my plug.
I'm Teddy Pritikin. I work at DirecTV. I run the direct response at DirecTV, and I've been there 11 years now. I was at Game Show Network before then. I was even at a short stint at Lifetime as well, and I got my start on the agency side at Y&R, the old Y&R way before Group M. And my favorite TV show, which I missed last night and I'm very upset about, but I have it recorded and we'll watch it as soon as I get back, is Real Housewives of New Jersey. Whoa! And I don't understand why there's laughing, and I'm not joking. Wow. I guess you guys noticed the New Jersey accent also, but it's phenomenal this season. A couple great new cast members.
I guess I can scratch out guilty pleasure.
And, and my self-promotion is we sell what we call super spots into it, but that was my idea because it's the greatest show and everyone should want to be a part of it.
Love it.
Highly recommend.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. Happy to be here today. My name is Chris Harris. I'm VP of Sales of AudienceXpress. AudienceXpress is part of Comcast Advertising, and what we do is we leverage technology that we have from our sister company Freewheel to aggregate linear and OTT supply across the ecosystem to bring that supply to agencies and advertisers. And because we're powered by Comcast, we're also leveraging the Comcast viewership data to help better plan, target, and measure on the back end across all different categories, obviously including performance. So, favorite TV show? I lived in Wyoming for about 6.5 years, so I did work on a couple ranches and helped some friends out at some point, so I'm going to have to stick with Yellowstone. I know it's probably a fan favorite, but
That's a great one.
Good one.
I'm going to go with Ted Lasso, mainly because it's great to watch with the family, and the kids get a kick out of it. So it's hard to find shows these days where you're comfortable watching with your kids fully. So
I don't watch Yellowstone with my kids.
no. That Beth, she's that's a great show. Okay, so let's start with Christine. So what strategy or technique or tool have you seen in the last 2 or 3 years that's really helping your clients drive stronger results?
Very good question. Have you seen that tool shed lately? There's a lot of tools in that tool shed. And I will say that the tools are very unique to each advertiser. So I can't say there's one tool out there because it is unique to each advertiser's end results. As performance marketers, we've always had performance metrics in place. It's just now with digital bringing their technology into play with various tools, various measurement tools. We have a plethora of tools to use to really monetize our campaigns. So I can't say there's one tool. I will say that there's a lot to choose from. It's no longer a Nielsen measurement. It's all about data and measurement, and it's no longer just Nielsen. It's a variety of third-party data and measurement companies that are coming into play, and it's really the one that's going to work best for your client.
Excellent. You two want to add on to that? Or?
For what we feel, our sales, what has worked best for our advertisers, I feel, is live programming. Like we know it's non-skippable. Like people are going to want to watch it live. They're usually not recording it. And live sports in general, like that's where you get the most eyeballs. And that's just where, at DirecTV, doing a little plug, we sell all live sports across all of cable, and we just see that's where the eyeballs are. And our advertisers know that that's where they're going to get they're going to get more scale and live programming, and the results have just been great, and that's where we really see the most success.
Did I mention On Patrol Live? Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Live programming is definitely the place.
Yeah, and I think also too, as we're talking about data and how we're utilizing data, I think one tactic that we're starting to see, especially as traditional performance advertisers are looking to go into streaming, is they found their audience on the linear side and now trying to find that new audience across CTV or OTT, and being able to kind of suppress the linear viewership from a targeting perspective and help find that new incremental audience, I think is something that we're starting to see a lot more traction against. And I think as things start to grow, and I think as we know OTT is growing, I think that's a tactic that we're going to see a lot more of. And then in addition to that, the one other thing that I think we've been seeing a lot of is the growth of QR codes from a performance perspective. I think the consumer adoption for QR codes has grown quite a bit from when it first came into market. And even on B2B clients, we've seen it, where the consumer adoption is really growing with QRs.
Yeah, I feel like I see them on 40% of the commercials these days, and it's funny. QR code 6 years ago was kind of like the coolest thing for about a month, and then died, and then obviously COVID brought it back. So it's interesting to see, like we talk about the media landscape changing, and that's one of them. That's just like up and down. VOD was one thing where it was like super hot for a year or two, and then just everyone forgot about it. And they're like, no, there's still a lot of people watching old school VOD. Yeah. So. Teddy, on the second one, are most of your clients that you work with, whether it's direct or with agencies, are they looking at video holistically? Or I know everyone says they are, but do you think they really are actually turning the corner to look at it holistically as opposed to here's my digital video, here's my streaming, here's my linear?
Yes, so I agree with you. They're all saying that, but they are not. And understandably so, because it's transacted differently. It's different currencies. You know, when someone wants to buy linear, I'm giving them unit rates. And then, you know, with streaming, I'm giving them a CPM. And then the pricing is also different because of the demand. You know, there could be more demand for streams, so the pricing is going to be much higher. And then you also have the capabilities are different when you're working with streaming compared to linear. You know, with linear, you're getting your pre-logs and you're looking to see clearance. And if you're doing streaming, you're transacting programmatically, you can change, automatically you could change your pricing. So it's as much as, for the viewer, it's obviously the same. You're looking at your big glass and you're just like, yep, I don't know if there's wires behind it or not. It doesn't matter. They don't care. But for the agencies, like it's just totally different. And we have advertisers who only book streaming with us, and then we have some that only do linear, and then there's some do both, but the budgets are all over the place with that, just depending on.
Have you seen that shift at all? I know you don't feel like we're there yet, but are you feeling any shift, or you feel like we've been stuck in the mud?
Well, absolutely, because like one of the things that we do now is like when we, as I brought up before, live sports, and it's so popular, we make sure when we're selling our live sports that you have to buy the streaming with it also. We sell that as a package, and they're able to do that, and the people who are, any of the advertisers who are booking it. So yes, with that, so we're starting to see that. But like I said, it's different because some people are doing direct IOs and some are doing programmatic, so it's just very separate still.
Yeah, and I think too, to your point, I think you still walk into some agencies and you turn right to talk to the linear buyer and you turn left to talk to the digital buyer, so you're not seeing that constant contact between them. And I do think we do have some clients that are trying to look at it holistically and more about kind of managing your frequency across connected TV and linear, which there are tools that you could do that. But I also think that that once we get deeper into measurement and we're moving away from panel-based measurement to more IP measurement, you're going to see obviously a big rise in people trying to look at it holistically and measure it holistically.
Yeah. I definitely think the technology is not there yet to be able to do that. And I do agree with both of you. I think it's very siloed still. They could say they're looking at it holistically, but it's siloed. I mean, an impression on linear is not an impression on OTT. It's very different.
Yeah, and I think there's some advertisers that just don't care. They just want to go where the conversions are happening. We had a performance advertiser tell us they don't believe in ComScore, they don't believe in Nielsen ratings, they don't believe that methodology. All they want to see is conversions. And if they're executing, they have a good idea of where that conversion's coming from based on their own in-house attribution, and they just don't care how they look at it.
Well, you guys all just, oh God.
Nope,
you guys all just made me very sad because I was hoping that as an industry we had moved forward. I would, Teddy, to your point, I agree with everything you said about them being so unique and different, but I think on the agency side, we have to always be challenging ourselves to say, yeah, that's bought differently, that's maybe measured differently, but they've got to all be talking in that same voice and connecting with each other. And I agree the technology is not fully there, but it's like way, way better than it was before. So I'm hoping if we were on this panel next year, I asked you the same question, we'll get a different answer, because I think clients, especially ones that are maybe more hybrid, the DR clients are going to go where the sales and leads are no matter what.
Yep.
So I'll ask the question in a slightly different way, and maybe this is boring now that you guys have said no one's doing this right, but from the sales side, Chris, are you guys trying to go to market with a more holistic sales pitch to the agencies? I know with all the consolidation and the shrinking of some of the sales forces, at least what we're hearing is like, hey, I sell you everything now.
Yep.
And, yeah, is that?
Yeah, and we try to go with a holistic approach. I mean, we very unique in where we sit in the ecosystem based on the technology that we have within Freewheel, our sister company. So we have that direct access to supply across linear, cable, broadcast, as well as OTT. So when we're talking about it, we are coming with a holistic approach, but as much as we try and get the advertiser or agency to try and work that way, sometimes the agency is executing programmatically. So they're getting their OTT supply through their DSP, and then they're buying linear through us. And obviously, we don't see a lot of linear sitting in DSPs right now, so it's still, as much as we want it to be there, it's just challenging right now, but I'm confident we'll get there. And I think, to your point before, I think challenging your agency internally, but also challenging your vendors too.
Yeah.
Because obviously we all have a lot of tools in our tool belt that if we all come together and push ourselves, that we could get there.
Well, the other thing also is, as much as everyone wants everything to, like, okay, give me $100,000 of linear, $100,000 of digital, in this marketplace, you're not going to turn away linear money if they don't have digital, and vice versa. You're going to kind of get what you can get at this point and just be happy with it.
I don't know if that's true for everyone, though. Some of the bigger conglomerates.
I'm gonna jump down one question just because I feel like we've covered off a lot of this. So how are your clients, you talked about some of the new technology, how are they measuring success today compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago?
For me, I feel like it just comes down to one thing, and that is, sales and pushing product. Are you pushing your product? Is the register ringing? Like, are we making sales? So that's the bottom line. I mean, we look at full funnel, but at the end of the day, it's, are we selling product?
And are your clients good at kind of sharing enough data with you to help you guys find where that's coming in, or they just say, hey, it worked or it didn't work, and that's it?
Oh no, they're definitely a lot more transparent with us now. It's great to hear that some of our programming, some of our content is really working well for them, and also our social sites are working well for them in being able to sell products. I mean, I keep talking about our one marquee program, On Patrol Live, and there's just such an viewer engagement, not only with the content of the show, but also on social media with Twitter and with Instagram. And they are so involved with the content, but they're also so involved with the advertisers in the show. So we see every Friday, Saturday nights, there's activity talking about the product, where to buy it, how it works, and it's all positive. And they're endorsing these products, and it's just great to see it come kind of full circle from TV to social media.
And maybe for the other two, I'll ask it slightly different. So at least what we've seen is just the number of people that are going to pick up the phone and make a call has just been going like this over the years. And so we've had to figure out ways to track other than just phone calls. And so what are you guys hearing from your clients on?
No, I'm agreeing with Christine on this. It's really about just sales. The branding, as much as we want to say like, hey, but look, it was seen by like the ratings were great on it. I'm sure it was great, even though you didn't sell a lot. They're like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I want to sell product. That's why I'm here. It's really performance marketing. Like, they want to see how it performs. Like, and there's that one metrics of how much product did you sell?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the one thing that we have seen is more transparency on the client side, because obviously everybody wants the campaign to work and we want to drive sales. And I think what we've seen now is a lot more transparency with our agency and advertiser partners, because we do have the ability to optimize, and we want to follow where that web traffic is coming from, or where that QR code scan is coming from. So transparency is obviously key for that, and we have seen a lot more people diving in and working as a partner.
Well, the other thing is, I've always loved the beauty of direct response, is that they're transparent. Your side is transparent by what they're doing with their rates. We know if something's working well, they want to clear more. They're going to raise their rates, and that goes for the same for streaming. They're going to, whether they're transacting programmatically or giving direct IOs, they're going to be raising their CPMs. They want to clear more. Yeah. So that's how I feel there's the transparency.
Yeah. I think what we've seen is the need, just because measuring a digital action from linear is much harder than measuring a unique phone call, is just the need to kind of tie those two together. And obviously everyone can do a spike model, but getting past just a spike model to look at kind of IP address, serve that ad, whether it's through ACR data and action taken. So for us, the biggest wins have been our clients that are able to tie that digital action to linear, they're so used to on the digital side. It's like, yeah, it just happens. I mean, it's tied together. You got cookies. So that's been a big growth area for a lot of our clients.
And I think too, in speaking with that, is different companies from an attribution perspective, they have different models. And so for linear, it might be a 2-week look back window. And then for digital, it might be 48 hours or whatever it is. And I think there just needs to be more consistency across all the attribution platforms to make sure we're looking at it, because 2 weeks is a long time to be attributing to a sale. And I think that just needs to be tightened up a little bit to make sure that that you're getting credit for the right, for the right spot.
Right.
Yeah. So this wasn't a topic we talked about too much when we were setting up for the panel, but you mentioned Nielsen and ratings, and VideoAmp just announced a deal with Warner Brother. We always are like paying attention to that, kicking the tires, looking at it, but then really comes back to sales. So are you guys having any agencies kind of push you on, you know, how you're looking at ratings, or they want to go to a different currency, or are they all basically like, hey, it's interesting, but it's about sales, and I'll let the market kind of figure it out on more on the general market side?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a wait and see. For us, we do have some agencies that are starting to explore what these alternative currencies are going to be, but I think obviously this is going to be a big telltale sign as we come up to the upfronts this year, and obviously NBCU is adopting it, and we have other, Warner Brothers is working with VideoAmp, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see how this upfront plays out, and then I think following that, I think we're going to see more demand from agency partners trying to look at some of those alternative currencies.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about it. A lot. We're hearing, you know, if with DirecTV, we're not tracked by all of them yet, and we're working on that, and it has been an issue. We're like, yeah, we could only, because the way DirecTV sells as a cluster with a whole bunch of networks, the attribution, we're always under-attributed. And they know it, all the data scientists at all the agencies say, we know you're under-attributed. And it would help if you're a part of, you know, the VideoRamp or iSpot. But yeah, it needs to get done.
Yeah, we just joined iSpot, and it's definitely a measurement that we're talking about with our clients, and hoping to use that as a secondary to Nielsen to kind of prove our effectiveness, because it is a different story.
And it needs to be.
Yeah.
I think that will definitely evolve. So I'm always interested on our side when we are in a new business meeting that prospects often come to us just like, I just want linear, or more and more now, I just want CTV. And we obviously think both those are the wrong answer. And so, you know, as you guys are going into the marketplace, what are the biggest hurdles that you guys have around, especially on the linear side of getting people to remember that linear still is a giant piece of that Nielsen pie that gets sent out every quarter, or actually every month now? That was going to be Chris.
For us, probably one of the biggest challenges is, especially from the performance side, is we're a little unique on how we're accessing the inventory. What we're doing is essentially aggregating the MVPD inventory, which is your cable providers, your satellite telco, et cetera. And so it's not so much of a unit-based buy, it's an impression-based buy. And I think a lot of the traditional performance advertisers are typically executing through a unit-based buy. And so getting them to convert to that impression base is a little bit challenging. We're working on solves for that now as we speak to try and bring that a unit-based solution. But I think that's kind of a hurdle that we in particular see at AudienceXpress when talking to new prospects that have traditionally done that unit-based.
And DirecTV is a little bit unique with this. First of all, as I said before, with the attribution part, where they feel I feel that, and they agree that we're not getting the full attribution that we should be. But the other thing that we get also, which is, like I said, unique to us, is the fact that we're selling the same networks that they're buying directly. And, you know, they're saying like, well, how do I know that my spot's not going to air next to, you know, the spot that I'm buying, you know, from Reelz directly? And so, you know, we have to do some explaining there about our pod situation and things like that. But it's one of our hurdles.
And for Reelz, we're just extremely linear focused. We see that really working well for us. We know we have to be on these other platforms as well, but very linear focused and really successful still, and still in demand by all our advertisers.
And what are you guys seeing in terms of spot length? I mean, it used to be the old days was 120, 120, 120, and I think as attributions changed, that's evolved. So what are you guys seeing in spot length?
There you go. I'd say for us, well, first of all, we don't take 120s.
Yeah.
We've never been able to.
Yeah.
And the amount of 60s is just dwindled to almost nothing, and it's just so many 15s there. Because you're just, well, if now we're talking about CTV, 15s are going to clear so much better than a 30 or 60s are very difficult. So like we're seeing so many more 15s, especially on the CTV side. And even linear, you're going to just clear way more.
Yeah, I agree. I think we don't see too many 60s anymore, and I think marketers have done a really good job of bringing their message within that 30-second, where historically you needed that 60 seconds to try and make sure you're getting your message out there. And I think marketers in general have just done a really good job of that. And from a 60s perspective, even across connected TV, there's still a lot of publishers that don't accept 60s. So you're very limited from a scale perspective when you are trying to execute a 60.
Oh, but boy, do I miss filling up the logs with those 60s. It was so much easier those days.
I mean, I grew up with 120s and 60s was the only way to go. I think because the bar of success for most clients is like just get them to my site as opposed to get them on the phone. I think that's why you're able to lose some of that time into 30s and 15s. We still have clients that are running across the board. Some senior focused clients are still hitting some 120s.
Yeah.
Just
I think
basically
you see
whatever
that
works.
more on linear. I'm sure you're finding the availability of 120s and 3 minutes and 5 minutes on linear, but I know with CTV, no, TT, it's a little different. You're kind of restricted to that 30-second unit. But yes, there is also a flux of 15s and 30s, and you got to give credit to the people who create those commercials because they do an amazing job to give out that message in such a short period of time.
So Christine, what do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the marketplace in the next 3 to 5 years?
You know, the question is, what is that video landscape going to look like, right, in 3 to 5 years? And it's hard to tell. I mean, the streaming platforms right now are they're really bleeding. I mean, we read the trades. We know, like, you know, they've lost like $12 billion. Where is that going to go? Where is that going to fall out? How is it going to play out? It's a hard thing to really come to a conclusion with. You know, it's a high risk environment to be in right now, and I think the stock market is not going to take it for far too long.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think probably one of the big things is going to be identity. Obviously, we have a lot of clients that are trying to leverage their first-party data, and with the regulations that we're starting to see with CCPA out in California and each state kind of adopting their own individual regulations, it's going to change how their marketers are using their first-party data. So I think there's going to be some growth from like a contextual targeting perspective, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out on how marketers are using their first-party data and different key identifiers that are going to, we have obviously the deprecation of cookies that is coming in 2024. I think it keeps getting pushed back, so we'll see. But I think that's just going to be a interesting thing how it's going to play out.
Anything to add?
I just, going back, I think you're just going to see so much. Thank God for live programming. I just think that's where things are going to be going. The impressions are going to keep just going down and down. There's just too many other places to watch TV, and watching reruns on some of these networks, it's just, I don't see that there's much of a future in that. And thank God for sports and news. And I just see that doing extremely well. And then it's just going to keep going like this. Like linear is always going to be, well, I shouldn't say always going to be bigger, but in my lifespan, hopefully, it will keep going down, and streaming is and they're gonna eventually meet, and that's where it's gonna be. And the capabilities of stream is just going to be, advertisers I think will start adopting, being, wow, I could really learn so much more by adding this pixel. I get so much more information. So it's the future.
Yeah, I always tell clients that ask me a similar question. It's like, I can't predict the exact winners or losers and where the percentages are going to land on consumption. But what I'm pretty confident on, and a lot of people in my agency argue with me, is that I think the number of addressable impressions is going to go almost up to 100%. And it's not to say that everyone's going to transact in an addressable way, but they'll be able to if they want. And so if they do come to the party with first-party data, and now you can do addressable everywhere on every network and every MVPD, I think that's the world that we're trying to get our clients to be prepared for, and our buyers to be prepared for. And a lot of our old school, I shouldn't say old school, our DR buyers will say, oh man, we've tried addressable, it doesn't work. I'm like, in its current form, it doesn't work. It's the way it's priced, it's hard to make work, but that's evolving, and that marketplace is evolving. So I mean, it's to me, that's a really, really exciting part of where this is all going.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, we've been doing addressable for a while now, and we keep saying, on the DR side, like, well, and because we have a lot of DR clients who do it, and it's really difficult for them. And we keep thinking, like, eventually there's going to be DR pricing for it, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, and that's I'm hoping as the inventory of it grows, that will open up a DR.
Yeah, we've made all of our inventory basically addressable, and it's still, it's tough. The pricing it's just difficult for DR clients.
Yeah, excellent. So I had one more question before we could turn it to the audience for some questions if they've got it. But any big, bold predictions you want to make for this year alone?
Christine, you want to go first?
I'll go back to, what will happen with OTT and CTV in the near future. I think we'll see some consolidation there. It will be hard to predict what will happen in the media landscape right now, for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's bold to say that more advertisers are going to adopt buying CTV. They're just going to have to. They're going to be. Advertisers will leave agencies behind if they're not ready for it, because I think they're going to read. So I just don't think that's a bold statement. It's just, we know that's going to happen. And I just think the other thing is more from the sales side. I just think there's going to be fewer and fewer companies. There's just going to be more and more mergers. And, so it'll be good in some ways for advertisers because they could scale more at one point, but at the same time, we control the pricing. We'll be able to control the pricing more. A little bit of a monopoly, but I think that is also going to happen this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much of a bold prediction, especially not this year, but I'm going to mention it because we were talking about it yesterday with some clients. I think, what role is AI going to play from an optimization perspective, not just from an audience delivery, but also from a creative delivery? There were some panels yesterday, they were talking about having different creatives for different executions, whether one creative for OTT, one creative for linear. And I think as we get better with measurement from an IP based, I think there's going to be an opportunity for machine learning or AI to play some role where marketers will be able to optimize their campaigns based on whatever KPIs they're looking for and optimize those different creatives.
Yeah. I mean, you realize all of my answers did come from ChatGPT.
Well, there you go. I thought we'd get to the panel without talking about AI, but I to that point, we also then start to think about, we already think about it when we're looking at CTV, and some of the executions are based off first-party data, is more versioning of creative. You used to be able to get away with one version, maybe two if you had slightly different target you're going after. And now having separate versions, and it's also, that's one of these things that everyone talks about and people don't do as much. And now we're seeing more and more clients being willing to do different versions. I think it started when it's like, now I need to make a version for YouTube, now I need to make a version for TikTok.
Yeah.
And so it's become a little bit more of a norm to be kicking out a bunch of different versions. So.
Yeah.
So we ran through our set of questions way quicker than I thought. Actually, don't even have a clock on me, but if we can throw it out open to the audience for any questions, any subject matters you want to.
Question. All right. Hi. Anyone have a question? Anyone? All right.
I'm going to ask the question so you guys show up for mine and Kevin's session later. So there's this joint industry committee around audience measurement, and I was at BTV a few weeks ago, and the theme was you have to support multiple currencies. What does that mean for you guys in terms of overall cost and implementation and just the myriad of like what you said, Teddy? It was great. It's like I've got linear, I've got digital, I've got everything kind of going on all at once. What's that going to do, for the buying community, having to buy in all these different types of systems with all these different types of data? And is there a quicker path, right? Like, is there a better way to make all this happen? Like, should Nielsen just buy Video Amp or, the other way around?
I think a lot of these new currencies, like the iSpots of the world, I think they are trying to do those things and say it's one-stop shopping. Like, you could buy all those things and I'll give you all of that. I'm trying not to do a commercial for these guys because we're actually negotiating with them now on some stuff. But I think that's what they are trying to do with that.
Yeah, I don't believe we're there yet, but I do think in the near future, hopefully, that these conversations will lead to some common currency, some common technology that everyone's going to work off of. We're definitely not there yet.
Yeah, I think also to that, to your point of cost, it's going to be pretty expensive, not only from the agency side of things, but also from our sell side too, right? If you have one agency that's looking to transact on iSpot or somebody else transacting on Video Amp, for us to be working with our clients, we need to fulfill what they're looking for. So from a cost perspective on our side, that could get obviously very costly. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and who's kind of the front runner.
That's great. Thank you.
Well,
guys.
I think the industry's been lucky to not have had to deal with this for so long, to have one common currency for so long. I was kind of hitting my head against the wall when I started pushing into streaming and OTT early on, is because I'm like, I'm not playing with your numbers. Your number one, you don't even have numbers yet, and two, but just like, so I've been in a battle of getting away from a existing currency for a long time. I think it's going to be really messy for the next 3-4 years.
Well, that's the thing. It's like one is measurement, the other one's counting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
until you align the impressions between the two and what is a viewable impression between the two, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That definition needs to, I think, happen first. But
Right
yeah.
now, it's different, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys have, you lead the charge on that. And once you decide on which horse to pick in that race, then everybody falls in line. And then
I
it's up to the
agree.
legacy providers to actually support the new currencies.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? All right.
Hi. We were speaking earlier about the growth of QR codes, and I was wondering if you are seeing greater adoption in certain categories versus greater resistance in certain categories. As I've had over the past few days, a lot of conversations, and there seems to be a split among like generational lines or just in certain demographics. It seems older audiences are pushing back against it a little more, but the younger audiences are very receptive to it. And I want to know if you were seeing anything in the categories that are adopting this.
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's very interesting because I think from a performance, we're seeing greater adoption, and it's hard to tell, obviously, what that demographic is that's doing the actual scan. But what surprised me is the adoption from different categories. And I mentioned, I think earlier, that we are working with a B2B company that's trying to target C-suites and other high-profile positions, and they wanted a QR code. And I'm like, do you? It's not going to be a waste of money. But they wanted to do it, and they wanted to try it, and it was very interesting to see the adoption that came from it. Again, I just wasn't expecting it from a B2B play. There was no, within the creative, there was no real incentive to drive to their website to go get something. It was just a clear message, but they were certainly seeing scans coming through, which was pretty interesting. So I don't think there's one vertical where it's excluded and it's not a good idea or anything like that.
And I think, to me, it's a lot more about how the generations watch TV. There's no one 25 to 40 years old that doesn't have their phone in their lap. And I don't think it's that people that are 50 and above don't know how to use a QR code or don't like it. It's just I don't think their behavior is having their phone as attached to their hip. It's probably attached more than we all think. And so I think that you're going to be more likely, I think, to have success. I think not the young kids because they're not even watching TV. They're on YouTube. But 25 to 50 is going to be more successful than 50 plus. But we've seen 50 plus clients generate results, but not as strong as the younger.
But when they're taking their phones out, they're hitting the flashlight by accident instead of the camera. That's always what they're doing with other people. So,
Or taking a picture.
yeah. But what we've seen success with QR codes, and it's across all advertisers, it's our pause ads. And so when you, with DirecTV Stream and some DirecTV set-top boxes, you pause the TV, and after 30 seconds, it comes up. So then for 4.5 minutes, you will have this up there. So it's much easier. You're not stressing out. You're like, oh, there you go. You could take your time with it and do it. And we've seen great success with that across all of our advertisers.
One thing I'd point out, oh, sorry.
And I would just say, we're getting asked by our clients a lot more about pause ads. I feel like they kind of are exploding over the last 6 months. I know they've been out there longer than that, and we've executed a few and been super happy with the results.
Well, it's funny because at first, for direct response, I would hear back from buyers saying, oh, no, when you're pausing the TV, that means you're busy, you're not paying attention, you're not going to, and it's like, well, it's kind of BS, because maybe at one point you are, but then when you look and you see something, you're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to call out, we did have an advertiser try 15-second QR code on their creative. That wasn't that successful, obviously, given the time frame of somebody trying to pull out their phone.
You have to be like Annie Oakley.
What is
It's
the
like
better time frame?
What's that?
What is the better time frame?
I mean, 60s, we've seen some
60s,
success on it, but even 30s, I think, to your point, I think everybody's sitting there watching TV, and whether they're texting or on their phone already while they're watching, I think even the 30s we've seen good success with.
Question for you about that. I mean, I fall into that older demographic. I'm not quite as quick on the draw, and do hit the wrong button sometimes. And one of the things that I've been wondering is, at what point are the OEM manufacturers going to step in and create alternatives to QR codes that are basically native to the device, to the remote, for example? Is that something that you all see happening anytime in the near future, or are we 5 years away from something like that?
I'm going to have to talk to my engineers about that one. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
It's an interesting point.
It's already happening in the CTV space, so interactive ads are exploding, and that is using your remote to do a whole host of things, look at more content, get texted, and then look at addresses. So it's definitely already happening in that space, and I'm assuming if the manufacturers kind of built it into that, it's only going to evolve.
Yeah, TVs are just getting smarter and smarter, and we're looking at, like, using Comcast, for example, with the Xfinity. You're already talking into your remote. You go to virtual auto show. You could do a lot of unique things, and that technology is just growing. And I think the OEMs are just advancing more and more on as they're rolling out new products.
So follow up and kind of corollary to that, so many people now have, and again, I'm not one of them because I'm old. Have an Amazon or a Google device right in their living room next to the TV, and that's sound activated. Do you see any activity coming from Amazon or Google to kind of make that connection between what's happening on, say, a CTV?
We already are doing that. The DirecTV Stream there's a box that comes with it. With DirecTV Stream, you could do it just through an app on the TV, or you could do it through your Apple TV, but you also could do it, and the best way to do it is this Osprey box, they call it, and you just stick it in the back of your TV, and it's run through Android. So it has all it's basically like having whatever that Google thing is called. I'm an Alexa guy, so I don't know what the Google one's called.
Google Home?
Whatever that is. Yeah, so it has a lot of those capabilities already.
Is there anyone from Amazon in the room? No. I'm constantly shocked that Amazon still sells video as a high funnel and won't listen to doing anything other than selling it as a high funnel tool. They just, like 2 months ago, are starting to think about performance and do some performance pricing. But for 3 to 5 years, I'm just like, you guys are missing a huge opportunity here. And I kind of get it. Everyone that comes to market with their first streaming offering always starts at a $25 to $35 CPM, and then 2 years later they come back selling it to us for, whatever. So, so I think that's a great question. I think connecting. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Good. And you guys edit that out of the YouTube.
Anyone else still have time? All right. Well, thank you to this tremendous group. We appreciate you.
Thank you.